Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2512 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. In today's Wisdom Nugget, we'll conclude our journey through Psalm 35 by exploring verses 22 through 28 from the New Living Translation. In this final section of the psalm, David shifts his focus to a heartfelt plea for God to act on his behalf. He speaks openly of his pain and the injustices that he faced, but he also proclaims his confidence that God's justice will prevail. This passage is a powerful reminder of God's role as the ultimate judge and the one who defends his people. It encourages us to trust in God's timing and to commit to praising him, even as we wait for his deliverance. Let's begin by reading Psalm chapter 35, verses 22 through 28 together. O Lord, you know all about this. Do not stay silent. Do not abandon me now, O Lord. Wake up. Rise to my defense. Take up my case, my God and my Lord. Declare me not guilty, O Lord my God, for you will give me justice. Don't let my enemies laugh about me in my troubles. Don't let them say, look, we got what we wanted. Now we will eat him alive. May those who rejoice at my troubles be humiliated and disgraced. May those who triumph over me be covered with shame and dishonor. But give great joy to those who come to my defense. Let them continually say, Great is the Lord, who delights in blessing his servant with peace. Then I will proclaim your justice. I will praise you all day long. David begins this final section in verse 22 by addressing God directly. O Lord, you know all about this. Do not stay silent. Do not abandon me now, O Lord. This opening line expresses David's confidence in God's knowledge of his situation. He acknowledges that nothing is hidden from God, not the injustices that he endured, nor the actions of his enemies. Yet David doesn't stop at recognizing God's awareness. He urgently calls on God to act. In verse 23, David continues, Wake up, rise to my defense. Take up my case, my God and my Lord. This plea for God to wake up is not a sign of doubt, but a cry for immediate intervention. David knows that God is always present and attentive, but in his distress, he longs for a tangible display of God's power and justice. By calling God, my God and my Lord, David emphasizes his personal relationship with God and his reliance on him as his ultimate advocate. These verses remind us that it's okay to bring our emotions, urgency, and desperation to God. He is not offended by our cries for help. Instead, he invites us to cast our burdens on him, trusting in his care and timing. In verse 24, David shifts his pleas for vindication. Declare me not guilty, O Lord my God, for you give me justice. Don't let my enemies laugh about me and my troubles. David is not asking for justice based on his own righteousness, but based on God's character as the ultimate judge. He trusts that God will declare him not guilty, because God is fair and just. David's concern isn't just for himself. He doesn't want his enemies to triumph, mocking both him and the God that he serves. Verse 25 continues this thought. Don't let them say, look, we got what we wanted. Now we will eat him alive. This vivid imagery of being eaten alive highlights the intensity of the enemy's malice. They're not just opposing him, they're eager to see complete destruction. David's prayer reflects his desire for God to prevent his enemies from gloating or believing their wicked schemes have succeeded. These verses are a reminder that God is the ultimate arbiter of justice. When we face false accusation or unjust treatment, we can bring our case to God, trusting he sees the truth and will act on our behalf. In verse 26, David prays for God to reverse the fortune of his enemies. May those who rejoice in my troubles be humiliated and disgraced. May those who triumph over me be covered with their own shame and dishonor. This isn't a vindication wish, but a call to God to expose and judge wrongdoing. David longs for justice, not for his own sake, but to uphold God's righteousness. He asks for those who celebrate injustice to be humbled, so that God's justice can be clearly seen. In contrast, verse 27 focuses on those who support David. But give great joy to those who came to my defense. Let them continually say, Great is the Lord, who delights in blessing his servants with peace. Here David prays for the blessing and joy to be poured out on those who stand with him. He wants his supporters to experience God's favor and to continually proclaim his greatness. This verse highlights David's desire for God's glory, that it might be magnified through the outcome of his situation. These verses show us the importance of aligning our prayers with God's justice. David doesn't seek personal revenge, but entrusts this matter to God, asking for the humble to be lifted up and the proud to be brought low. This approach encourages us to focus on God's will and His glory, even amid our struggles. David concludes the psalm in verse 28 with a vow of praise. Then I will proclaim your justice, and I will praise you all day long. This final verse is a beautiful expression of David's trust and gratitude. He doesn't just want deliverance for his own sake. He wants to use his testimony to proclaim God's justice and faithfulness to others. David promises to praise God all day long. It reflects the depth of his devotion. He understands that God's deliverance deserves ongoing gratitude and recognition. This commitment to praise isn't contingent on the timing or the nature of God's response. It's rooted in David's faith that God will act according to His perfect will. This verse reminds us that our response to God's intervention should be one of continual praise. When we experience His deliverance, it's an opportunity to share His goodness with others and to give Him the glory that He deserves. Psalm chapter 35, verses 22 through 28, offers us several important lessons for our lives today. First, it reminds us that God is fully aware of our struggles. When we face injustice, betrayal, or opposition, we can bring our concerns to Him, trusting that He sees and understands every detail. Second, these verses encourages us to seek God's justice rather than taking matters into our own hands. David's prayer reflects his confidence in God's role as the ultimate judge. This challenges us to resist the urge for personal revenge and to trust God that He will handle the situation in His perfect way. Third, David's commitment to praising God reminds us to keep our focus on Him even amid our trials. When we shift our perspective from the circumstances to God's character, we find the strength to endure and a hope to keep moving forward. And finally, this passage highlights the importance of proclaiming God's faithfulness. Even when we experience His delivery, we have the opportunity to encourage others by sharing our testimony and pointing them to His goodness. As we conclude this journey through Psalm 35, let's take David's example to heart. Whether we are facing challenges, waiting for deliverance, or celebrating God's faithfulness, we can trust that He is with us, that He sees us, and that He is working on our behalf. Our role is to bring our burdens to Him, trust in His justice, and commit to praising Him in all circumstances. Thank you for joining me today on our Wisdom Trek. Until the next time, may God's wisdom guide your steps, and may His love fill your heart with peace and the confidence of His unfailing justice. And if you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.